Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Self-Love Sunday. Today I have a really cool topic. It's called How to Bring Light into Our Shadows. In fact, there is a guy, a yogini, that said once, in the presence of light and the presence of darkness, do not worry so much about darkness. Turn the light on and the darkness will disappear. In the presence of darkness, don't worry so much about darkness. Turn the light on and the darkness will disappear. I love that phrase. Right there should say it all. But sometimes we need a little bit more explanation. How do I do that, Paola? How do I do this when, oh my God, this kind of people or that kind of personality or that person in particular, ooh, they make me forget all the good I know. In a matter of moments, I'm in fight or flight. Today we're going to talk about that, how to turn the light on. I see a couple of you online. I'm always so happy to see a couple of you online. So, Andrea, hello, Andrea. Bundy, so good to see you here. So good to see you guys getting online. Today I'm bringing a exercise. It's called the shadow exercise. We're going to work on shadow. And when I learned this many years ago, it was such an eye-opening, like, wow, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I can't believe how liberating it is to take 100% responsibility of my reality. And, I've named this group Freedom Seekers. And I know that if you have subscribed to it, it's because you, like many of the people that are here, we're valuing freedom. Freedom is one of our values. And so if you are wanting to be free, or if you want to keep cultivating your freedom, the most important piece of that is that we take 100% responsibility of our lives. And it's not 99.9%, it's 100%. And that means that when someone or something is triggering you, even though your five senses, this third dimension is telling you, it's their fault. They shouldn't have said that. They shouldn't have done that. Even though at a very human level you said, Paola, but it was their fault. They did that to me. Even though, if you want freedom, we must do it differently. And that is by taking responsibility on you, on how you feel, on how you see it, and how you learn from it. Because if we don't learn from these people that come and bring triggers, and we don't learn from these situations, what has happened in my life, and I don't know if it's happened in your life, but I will assume yes, is that you keep finding the same situation over and over again. It might be that you keep quitting jobs and you keep finding the same boss. Or if it could be that you keep, finding new jobs and it's the same situation with that one coworker. It could be that you've had different romantic partners, and even though they look different, the same feeling tone comes back to your life. You may feel abandonment. You may feel that they're not available. You may feel that you end up, not loving them, and then they're loving you too much. Whatever it is, your pattern, those patterns happen in our lives because life is wanting for us to see what's in the subconscious mind. So I see Jill, hi Jill, hi Paola, hi, so good to see you here, Jill. So if you get online, please say hi so I can acknowledge you for being here. And I know you are taking your time on a Sunday morning. It's because you are the diligent student. You are the diligent student, and I think the universe responds in a beautiful way when you're a diligent student. So thank you for being online. So going back to the topic of the shadow, there's a lot in our subconscious mind, and that's why it's very easy to live our lives asleep. It's very easy to live a life where you become the victim of your circumstances. It's very human. It's by default we do that. But today I'm here to tell you that those people, those situations that trigger you the most, they're allowing you to do this exercise to bring some light to your shadows. And a shadow means that there is an aspect of you that hasn't been healed or integrated. So sometimes people are shadowing us or bringing a big mirror. Let's talk about the mirror. They're bringing a huge mirror in front of us to allow you to see those aspects of you that you haven't recognized. It's just a pure reflection. And sometimes you say, no, Paola, I'm not like this person. This person is a narcissist. This person is a mean person. And I'm the opposite. I'm actually so giving, so loving that sometimes I'm so tired from doing all of that giving that I do, all of that pleasing that I do. Well, even though you're not like the narcissist is still your shadow because you run away from that way of being. You run away to the other extreme, and extreme are poisonous. The extreme that you're in is still limiting your life. That is why you keep finding people that are takers, that they just care about themselves and not anyone else. So life is bringing you lots of triggers sometimes because you're ready. You are ready. You know, you probably come with me if you're in this group. Many people on the first days when they're here, and if you're not, you haven't been in this retreat center, don't worry, because life does this to you too. But in this retreat center, like the first days, what I see is that all of us, you know, including myself, when I was arrhythmia for the first days doing medicine, it's so much triggers. So many triggers come through the surface, so many. And our first reaction is saying, no, I don't want this. I don't want to feel this bad. I don't want to feel all this stuff. When in reality, what we're doing there, what we came here to do in this life is to heal and remember. But in order to heal and remember, we must feel everything that is coming to the surface. We must see our shadows. We must see our hallucination and then shine some good, loving light to it so that it disappears. But that was a little introduction to our today's topic, how to bring light into our shadows. But before I carry on, I would love for us to start breathing in and out together, like you know I love to do, just getting into our beingness before we go into our doingness. So I encourage you to put your palms facing upwards and on top of your lap. And I'm going to encourage you to close your eyes. Close two eyes, open one. Open your third eye. And together we're going to take 3 deep breaths, beautiful deep breaths. Inhale through your nose. And exhale out the mouth. Inhale through your nose. Exhale out the mouth. Inhale through your nose. Exhale out the mouth. And as you're breathing in and out, I encourage you to go a little deeper into your heart, just by feeling your heart right there breathing. You can feel or imagine the beat of your heart and notice how consistent it is. From the moment you were born till the moment you'll transition, that beautiful, magnificent organ, your heart, will beat for you. Your lungs will breathe for you. Trillions of cells will regenerate for you. Your digestive system will digest food for you. There's an intelligence in you that it is you that does all of this magnificent operations for you, all of these processes happening. Your nature is so beautiful, so perfect, that unconsciously, even when we're sleeping, so much is going on. So I want you to, in this moment, all of us, let's be grateful with the intelligence that is in us, that is supporting us, that is loving us so dearly, so that we can navigate this life, this beautiful, messy life, beautiful, magnificent, but sometimes so imperfect. That makes this contrast of being alive such an adventure. So we say thank you, intelligence, thank you, loving presence, thank you for being closer than I can even imagine. So we thank this present and we thank you, every single individual in this call and every single individual that will watch later. Thank you for being a diligent student. Thank you for saying yes to life, saying yes to love, saying yes to remembering. And we're going to breathe the last 3 times full of joy and presence and love. Inhale. Let go. Inhale. And let go. Inhale. And surrender. Let go. Very good. Very slowly and very gracefully open your eyes and come back to the room. And we are ready to begin this class. Let me see who's online. I see Kelty. Hi, Kelty. Belle, I know you are now. Welcome, welcome, Joe. Hello, good morning. Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Good morning. All right, guys. So let's begin this class. Let's begin this Facebook Live. Today we're going to talk about shadows. I love this work. But let me warn you of something. If you're not ready to take 100% responsibility of you and your life, this might be a challenging Facebook Live to listen to, because I'm going to be challenge you and to do this exercise. You don't have to do it live, you can do it later, but there is an ego challenge, which is that I'm going to ask you to see the other's perspective. And sometimes when we are in resentment, when we're angry, when we're in pain, we don't want to do that. So you can watch now and you say, well, I'm not ready to do this. Do it when you're ready. But I'm just going to offer you this exercise that is really, really empowering and eye-opening. Now, today I'm going to do this exercise with a personal example that I had a few years ago, but you can do it with your own. But before I go into the exercise, the reason why I would like to do this today is because, as you know, we have a lot of thoughts every day, about 90,000 thoughts. There's a debate between 60 and 90,000 thoughts we have each day. It's a lot of thinking. Out of those 90,000 thoughts, 90% of those thoughts are unconscious, 90 to 95. So many of the things that you think go in the subconscious mind. A lot of them are positive. Don't get me wrong. A lot of information there is just mechanics. You know, you have to just read and write and listen and walk and drive. A lot of that information is all of the things that are allowing us to be in this life. But a lot of that, some of that information is limiting information, limiting thoughts and beliefs and habits. And those are the ones that we want to observe. But let me tell you a little bit more about the facts of your brain and my brain. Out of 90% of the information that is subconscious, most of that information is information that we didn't even choose. It's acquired information. Like Reverend Michael likes to call it information shuffle that we do. We're shuffling information all the time. And so that is the information that we need to question. That's the information that I am inviting you today to question. What is it that is in the subconscious mind? And you may say, oh, Paula, but if it's unconscious, how am I going to question it? Because I don't even know it's happening. Well, here's the good news. Your triggers are your biggest blessings. People that come to your life and trigger the hell out of you, that is your teacher. I know I've talked about it in a video before this, in the video that talks about how expectations are premeditated disappointment in our lives. And I've talked about it in the other videos too, when I talked about chaos and uncertainty. If you haven't watched the videos, go to the library of this Freedom Seekers group and you'll find it. But today we're going to talk about those shadow aspects that are brought up through our triggers. And what's a shadow? A shadow is an aspect of ourselves that we haven't recognized because we said, I don't want to look at it. From the moment you were very little, you're like, I don't want to deal with that. Or it's information that you already know it, but it hurts so much that is looking for completion, is looking for healing. That is why it's coming to the surface. So every time there's a situation in your life that triggers big emotion, life is inviting you to look at what's in the subconscious mind so that you can integrate it, you can own it, because that's unconditional love. That's being living in wholeness. You own what's in the shadow, so you love it, you shine light so it disappears. It's not that the trade will just disappear of your life, but the resistance to it, the darkness will disappear around that aspect of you. Or there's something that big that needs to heal. It could be a situation you had in the past with your parents, an aspect of yourself that you don't want to deal with. So it's looking for healing. Every time you're being triggered, information comes to the surface so that we can clean it up. So that is why we call people that trigger us our biggest teachers. Not because they want to be your teacher, it's because you have asked to grow and expand in this lifetime. So they don't have to know it. They don't have to know that you're a teacher. So anyway, the way we do this exercise is called a shadow. I learned it from this awesome lady. Her name is Teal Swan, if you want to check her out. She did the same thing that I'm about to do with you. So she had somewhere to write on. So I would love for you to have a page. Again, you don't have to do this right now. You can just pay attention and do it later. Or if you want to do it simultaneously. If you're like me, when I hear a teacher doing an exercise, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it right now. I can't wait. But whatever you want to do, the way that we do this, we put the page horizontally. And then we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. And the last one, we're going to divide it in 2 so that it can fit your page. Now, this is the thing. I'm going to take someone in my life that at a moment used to trigger me a lot. And this was a friend. He's still my good friend. I love him to pieces. But we were roommates. There was a time in our lives where we were roommates. So we had a lot of time to hang out. And I remember I used to see him struggle. I used to see him getting sick. I used to see him getting into projects and not succeeding at it. And I was just I felt for him. And so we would talk. Sometimes we'll have, lunches and dinners together and we would talk. Or sometimes he'll be cooking. And I would see that he would be listening to podcasts that were all about conspiracy theories. He was an American. So at the time, I think Obama was in the administration, and so he would listen. One of the reasons he didn't live in the United States is because he didn't like to live there. He thought, it's just horrible the things that the government was doing, all of these things. So I would say a big chunk of his day he would listen to this kind of podcast. He would watch the news. He will post in the social media things that were very negative about the United States and the world and all of these things. And then simultaneously, I was seeing him just getting very weakened about it. Like his body will get, he was always tired, and sometimes he'll get sick in a month a couple of times. He was doing a big project at the time and it wasn't succeeding. And so I remember talking to him and saying, well, don't you think it's like because you're always getting information in your mind that everything is so bad and so negative, that we live in this very hostile world? And then he'll fight back and say, no, Paula, it's not about this. It's that you are delusional. It's that you live in a bubble and you are so positive. You guys have an expression. It's like I don't know. I can't remember what it was. But just, happy that you are in danger because you don't know what the government can do in your life. And so we would have conversations, and this will translate in our interactions as roommates. He was more prone to being very negative. His negativity bias was very awakened. And for me, I was in denial. I was like, I don't want to deal with all that negativity. So I was like running away from it. So anyway, One day I discovered the shadow. And I said, well, this is my dear friend. I love him, but he's triggering me. There was moments where I was like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, I don't even, living with you is being a little difficult because it's too much negativity. So I decided to do this exercise. And this is, we start with the word, my judgment. So you're going to start judging them. And so you take your time, and I don't want you to be spiritual. I don't want you to bring your compassion. I want your ego to tell you exactly what is it that you are judging about them. So with him, I started and I said, what I'm judging is that he's very pessimist, so negative. I don't like that. He's been a victim. I judge him that he's been inflexible. I did this in the call before, so I'm copying from what I said because it took me a little longer to remember. So he's being inflexible. He's disconnected from his heart. So my super spiritual ego would judge him, which is, it's hilarious when an ego that knows a little bit about personal development judges another one, saying, oh, you're not enlightened enough. So I would do that at the time. This was maybe 7 years ago. It was hilarious. I remember finding that out. I was like, oh, Paola, your spiritual ego is judging his ego, which is still an ego, So anyway, at the time, I would say he's just so disconnected from his heart. I would judge him from being not resolved. He was not resolved. He was wounded, and all of my judgment. And sometimes I'll be so tired after talking to him because I would judge him a lot. And I've mentioned this in another call. If you're very tired in the presence of someone else after you see them, it's probably because you ran a lot of judgment. And it's your own judgment that leaks the energy. We tend to blame them. Oh, they took all my energy. What if it was you judging them so much that it took all of your energy? What if? I know there are different scenarios, but most of the time that's the case for me. So now, what would be his judgment towards me? So this is the part that is very challenging, especially when we're not ready, because we're not ready to put ourselves in the other perspective. So I'm going to ask you to get out of you, or to pretend that you can. What would he say about me in that time when we were living together and he was being triggered by my ways? I haven't had a TV since I'm like 24, so 10 years ago. I just turned 34 the other day. 10 years of no TV. I just don't want to know. And at that time, now I know a little bit more because because of him, I choose to know a little bit here and there, so I can have more compassion, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Anyway, what would he be his judgment toward me? So I remember he used to tell me, you're not realistic. So he would judge me this way. You're not realistic, Paola. You're disconnected from reality, disconnected from what is, which he thought it was very dangerous. You have a silly innocence that is not going to help you in life. He would say that I was shallow in my way of thinking about the world. So I would just see the tip of the iceberg. And he would say that I would have a fake positivism. So you see that it's hard to do the second column sometimes for some people, because they would say, well, Paula, no, I'm doing it all right. Why would he judge me? But that's not the point. The point is that you, from a moment, and that requires a lot of flexibility, which is a quality of wisdom, flexibility. So you go into their eyes, into their shoes, and you say, if I were them, judging them from their perspective, what would they see? So I would say he would say that about me. Now, we go into the third column, and I put here my worst case scenario. So here we're entering the most important part of this exercise. My worst case scenario. So in their shoes, when they see me, what's my worst case scenario? How do I end up in life? How do people like me that are not realistic, disconnected from what is, with a silly innocence, with a shallow point of view, with a fake positivism, how people like this end in life? So he would say, you know, she will get disappointed always because she will trust, and then people will disappoint her because she just doesn't have any intuition. She will be taken advantage of. She would fail in life, and she might get sick because of all this hardship and sad. So this is my worst case scenario in his view. Now again, it takes a little bit of flexibility, or maybe depending on the case, a lot of flexibility for you to do this part. But then we go into their worst case scenario. So now is my time to see someone that is pessimistic, negative, victimized, inflexible, disconnected from his heart, not resolved, and wounded. How does this kind of person end up in life? In my case, I say the first thing: sick, lonely, or alone. People like this end up not getting what they want in life, meaning unaccomplished. People like this in life fail, and they potentially die pretty sad. So that's my judgment. That's what I think. Someone like this will end up like this, and he might think, I'm just assuming, that if I continue being this way, I'll end up this way. So why is the third and the fourth column the most important part of this call, of this exercise? Is because here's where awareness comes. And what does that mean? I'm going to take another color. This fourth column right here is my biggest fears. Whenever I see someone being negative, victimized, and you know what is fun for me is that I did this 7 years ago, and I've been working on it. So people that are this way don't trigger me anymore, but they used to. They used to, because they were showing a big shadow that I'm going to show you what was my shadow. So, but at the time, anytime I would see someone victimized, disconnected from their heart, wounded, not resolved, pessimistic, I would get very uncomfortable. I would get sad myself. I would just be like, I can't deal with this. Because every time they behave the way they behave, they would trigger my fears, my own wounds. What was it? From a very young age in my life, I learned that being sick, lonely, and alone, and failing and not fulfilling your dreams was the worst thing that could happen to a person. That this meant death for me. So whenever they did that, I would feel like I was dying. So do you see how all the time is never about the other person, is all about you? That's why I keep recommending reading the book, The Four Agreements. Don't take it so personally, and don't assume. Two agreements are those two agreements are that. Don't take it personal, and don't ever assume. But anyway, going back to here, this fourth column is my biggest fear. So I'm starting to understand my shadows. I run away at all cost from getting to this scenario. That is why at the time I was doing all I was doing, being completely how do you say that? Oh, there's a word in English I can't remember. Oblivious to what was going on in the world. I didn't want to know anything about pain or chaos, because I didn't know how to deal with my own pain and my own chaos. Now, I'm not saying I was going to get into conspiracy theories and listen every day, all day information about that, because that's just not me. But there's something here that was emerging for me. There was something that this roommate at the time was showing me. So anyway, before I go there, I could also assume, and now this part we will never know, because that person is a world, and we never know what's going on there. But since we assume that he judged me in a way that I wasn't realistic, that I was disconnected from what was, that I was silly, that was shallow, that I had this fake positivism. Also, when he thinks his worst case scenario, and I would ask him, is it true that for you being disappointed is a fear of your life? Is it true that for you being taken advantage is something that makes you very fearful? Is it true that failing, being sick and sad is something that you run away from? He'd probably say, yes, Paula, I don't want people to take advantage of me. And knowing his story with his parents, I know that he felt taken advantage by his parents. He had to take care of his brothers and do all these things. So for him, it was a big fear. It was a huge fear. And so every time I would behave the way that I behave, he'll get triggered. So we were triggering each other, our biggest fears. Isn't this so interesting? So I would say here, his biggest fear. Let's take a deep breath. Let go. Okay. So I'm hoping so far I'm being clear about this explanation. You can always come back to this part of the video and rewind and do it yourself. So now, what good does it do, Paola, for me to know this? Well, first of all, your understanding that is never about the other person. Never about the other person. It's always about what triggers in you. So I know in myself, because of my education, because of my upbringing, being approved was very important. Being, someone that never causes chaos or conflict was very important. So because I created a personality around that, many times in my life I've been affected by that need to be approved, to not create conflict. I've been limited in my life. I've limited my own life because of it. So life kept showing me people this way so that I can be okay with it, that I can heal those aspects of myself. So let's go back to the chart or this exercise. And I put here the word homeopathy. So the first is my judgment. The second is their judgment. The fourth is my worst case scenario, which we already saw. Then their worst case scenario. And now the next one is homeopathy. I don't know if you know what homeopathy is, but it's just a form of medicine that works with energy. So they will extract the energy of a plant, and then they'll put it in a little tincture, and you can put some drops, and then that will create a positive effect on you. Some people believe in it. Some people, they said, oh, well, that's just the placebo effect. Whatever it is, I believe it works, whether that is the thing itself or that you believe so much in it that is the placebo effect, which is perfect, which is the intelligence of you that is working out. So anyway, homeopathy means it's just a very small dose of something that will create a positive impact in your life. So now this is probably the most challenging part of this exercise. Why? Because I'm about to ask you a question. This is a question I asked myself at the time, and it took me 2 days to come up with an answer. Hopefully it won't take you 2 days. At the time so 7 years ago, I was what, 27 years old? And, my level of awareness, I was still very challenged by it. So, because I was more of a believer of what I saw that was beyond it. So anyway, the question is, if I took a bottle that had the essence of my friend, my roommate. I shook it. This is him. And I took a drop and bing, put it in the top of my crown, and then it went all the way through my body. And this drop, it's a drop of homeopathy of who he was, this behavior. But then here's the catch, that this drop of homeopathy will make a positive impact in my life. How would that be possible? I'm going to repeat the question because I think I wasn't clear enough. If you were to get a drop of the essence of that person that triggered you, and that drop will create a positive impact in your life, how would that be? I remember hearing that question and being like, hell no, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way in hell I'm going to do this. No. But then I kept thinking, because I'm a student, I love to be a good student. And so I said, okay, Lab, can you show me? And so I started thinking, you know what? If I had a little bit of this, I'll be more okay in the midst of chaos. I'll be more okay in the midst of my own pain. I would be more assertive. Why? Because then I won't be running away so much from conflict. I will be more okay with the pain of others. Because, and that's what I need to be a coach. I was starting to be a coach 7 years ago. It needs to be okay for me to see someone completely bathed in their own negativity and for me to hold them in a higher space. But if I don't know how to be in the presence of negativity and chaos, then how am I supposed to help people? So I remember thinking, wow, interesting. I have run away so far from this that is limiting my career, is limiting my relationships. I would be more better at setting boundaries, which we talked in the last couple of weeks. Boundaries. If you haven't watched that video, go ahead and watch it. Boundaries. If I had a little bit of that, I will have more compassion about the world. Because here's the thing, famine, war, corruption is created by fear. And I know one of my purposes in life is to remember love all together as a community, to be a presence that we can, a presence that brings hope. I know that's my dharma. But how can I do that if I am not compassionate about the contrast? The way that we let go, we get rid of wars and famine and pain in the world is by bringing love, by bringing light. But if I'm always running away from what's going on in the world that I don't like, then how am I supposed to have that kind of compassion? So do you see how my friend was being a teacher for me? I didn't like it. I didn't like to see him in pain. I didn't like him to tell me, all the things that he said to me. Most of them was just a projection of his own. But I could see with a flexible mind that there was something beautiful being given to me. And so I started thinking, okay, so how do I resist all of these positive qualities that I'm running away from? Well, I resisted every time I shut up, because I can voice my truth. So every time I run away from my truth, every time I please others at the cost of my own values, please, not pleasure, please. Every time, how do I resist? Every time I am denying my own pain. I remember for a long time I was a binge eater. And one of the reasons what I would eat is because I didn't know how to be with my own pain. So it was a way of running away, of avoiding conflict within myself. So the way that I resist all of this was by habits that I have, running away, avoiding conflict. I don't want to know. Don't tell me about pain. I just want to be in the other side. But it's both. Life is both. Unconditional love is both. You love your shadows as much as you love your light. All of it. There's no separation. Now, how do I start flowing? So here we're starting getting to the solution of all this shadow. Not the solution, but things we can start doing. And I remember the flow state for me that week was to practice. Every time I'm in a conversation with him, I'm going to take deep breaths and I'm just going to ask questions. I'm just going to bring curiosity to chaos. Curiosity to chaos. I don't know how to write curiosity. Curiosity. Every time I'm going to feel that it's time to speak my truth, I'm going to be brave this week. I'm going to be brave and speak my truth. Even though we're not in agreement, I'm going to agree to disagree and stay there in conversation. And just to allow the trigger to travel to my body and still do it. Instead of running away, be in it. Now, this is me. This was Paola in that time. If you're someone that is constantly confronting and you know that your growing edge is to be quiet, to not confront so much, to hold space, then go the other direction. So this is very unique to you. Some people are like, Paula, I'm constantly speaking my word and that gets me in trouble. Well, perhaps for you, a state of flow, maybe this is a person that you judge as weak. Perhaps your growing edge, perhaps that person is asking you to be more discerning, for you to not say everything you think, for you to be a little bit wiser with your words. So know that this is different for everyone. So this, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't continue with the allowance. It could be that at the time I denied so much of my pain that was to sit with my pain and the pain of others. So what is the homework that this person is giving you? What's the assignment? So now that doesn't mean, in my case, this is a friend that I could continue being friends. I've done this with jobs, with a boss that I don't like, and I know the invitation for me is to start looking for a new job. I've done this with ex-partners, ex-boyfriends, and there's been times where the assignment is to set a boundary, to say, okay, I'm going to love you from afar. We don't have to be in relationship anymore. It's not about if you stay or if you don't, if you have a friendship with them or not. This is all about, are you learning from this teacher? Or are you just complaining and pointing fingers and feeling victimized by it? And here's the thing, as I've been doing this in the last 2 calls, I can tell you with all honesty, negative people don't trigger me anymore. And if they do, it just goes away very fast. I don't engage with it. This was a huge thing for me in the past. It was so unbearable. Now I see past it, and I can bring more compassion to it. I can set more boundaries. Or sometimes their energy is not a match to my energy, so we're not in the same, we're not a match to each other. So it doesn't happen as often. So, but it's been 7 years of me working on my own shadows, being okay with contrast. I was not okay with it. And this exercise and all the work that we do, that I've been sharing with you guys, has helped me. Now there are other things that trigger me, but it will need various calls to go through all of them, and we don't have to. I think I made my point. But I do this exercise when I feel deeply triggered by something or someone. So let's take a deep breath in and let go. Okay, so is there any questions, any doubts, any comments, anything you said about that? You know what? That made sense to me, and I can see how this person is triggering this and is showing me this. Did you do the exercise while I was doing it? If you didn't, that's okay. You can do it later. Let me read some of your comments. I see Sasha. Hi, Sasha. Pablo. You're welcome, Pablo. I'm glad you're here. I can relate to avoiding pain and chaos by not watching news. Yeah. And again, it's not that you start watching news. You can choose. You can choose what kind of information you want to get in. Also, there's some people, maybe this is you, that will wake up in the middle of the night because you can sleep. Or I remember this particular teacher said that for a couple of years he couldn't sleep in the middle of the night. He would just wake up 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, and he would just pray for the world. He will send love and compassion to the world because he was aware of what was going on in the world. So it could be that. It could be that you choose certain channels to watch or sources of information in the news, and then you choose, because I know there's a lot of manipulation in the news that we listen to, but it's using that power of choice, and choice is a consequence of an expanded awareness. But also you understand that there's that pain, that it needs us. It needs us for us to be being the light, being the love, and sending this to the world. So maybe that's for you, Tammy. I don't know. Maybe. V, so good to see you here. Love you too. Joe. Yes, I did it. So relevant for me. What a light bulb moment. Beautiful, Joe. So when you said their worst case scenario is actually my biggest fear. Wow, so true. I know. I remember first time I was like, oh my God, it's true. Every time they behave the way they behave, I feel so sick in my stomach because I'm afraid of that outcome. So it's all about me at the end of the day. That's why taking 100% responsibility of your reality is the fastest way to become the freest version of yourselves. Freedom, that's what we're here for, freedom. But we need to do this kind of work. And sometimes the ego seems to be very challenged by it because you want to be right instead of being at peace, instead of being free. Belle saying it's perfect timing for this. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So VC says, are you in avoidance if you're not watching news, or avoiding people and not saying what you think? So let's see if I understand that question. Are you in avoidance if you're not watching news? You know what? That's an answer that only you can answer. You can be saying, I'm not going to watch these channels because I know they're manipulating, and I just want to choose what I want to see. In my case, I can only talk about me, V. Many years I avoided everything that was negative because it triggered a lot of fear in me. So I would avoid it because of that reason. So that was my answer. Now, I would avoid watching some TV show because I can see that that's not adding to me. Now, is that the reason why you do it? Because it's not adding to you and you're choosing differently, or are you doing it because you don't know what to do with it? So it's so overwhelming that you feel that there's nothing to do. You feel hopeless. Sometimes for me, it's important to know a little bit. And I tell you, I have no TV in my house. I don't watch the news. I do to tell people, can you tell me what's going on? I do sometimes go and look for it, just to bring more compassion to the world. And you don't have to go to the news to help people. You can just see the people around you that are suffering. If you're a healer, and I know V, you're a beautiful, open vessel for all the work that you've done. Perhaps it's just to be in the presence of other people's problems and be able to bring light to it. Again, it's not everyone. And I encourage you, V, to watch the video about boundaries. Because sometimes it's important to have that down first before we go help others. But I hope that answers your question. And you said something else. Or avoiding people or not saying what you think. So again, ask your heart that question. Am I in avoidance because I'm afraid of my biggest fear? Or am I just setting boundaries because it's healthy? You know in your heart from what space you're doing it. So it has to be a conversation with you in your heart. And that's a simple question. Dear heart, am I doing this in a space of avoidance because I haven't healed something? Or am I doing this because I love myself so much that I want to stay healthy? So Joe says, could figure out why this person triggered me so much. Thanks so much. You're so welcome. I'm so glad you saw it. Belle, can totally relate to spiritual ego on my part with this person last year. Yeah. And sometimes when our egos learns a lot of beauty about spirituality, the ego is like, oh, this is cool, but then it uses it, if you're not aware, it uses it to pass judgment onto others. And that's just very cute of our ego, I would say. I won't attack the ego and say, you bad ego. I would just say, ego, you're so cute, thinking you're better than others. You're so cute. I love you, ego. Okay, Tammy. Yes, just started reading Byron Katie and doing the work. I love that. Byron Katie, her work, it's all about shadow work. She wouldn't call it that way, but I interpret it. She does a lot of shadow work. And there was a lady, her name was Debbie Ford. She's not here anymore. She transitioned, but her work's still going, and it's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, V said, it's not adding to me, but when I'm around negative people, I sometimes think it's easy to avoid, but I'm supposed to help them. Well, I guess I answer your question while I was talking before. You see what your heart says. I know the more comfortable I am with my own pain, I don't get triggered by other people's pain because I don't get so involved. And let me say something about helpers. If you're a helper, if you're a healer, if you're someone that you love to give to people, you are not supposed to save them. You're not supposed to save them. Sometimes we get triggered with helping people and, thinking, oh my God, they're not changing, they're not doing the work, because we think we're responsible for their change. When you're in the presence of someone struggling, you're just a space. You're just a loving space. But you must detach from the egoic idea that you will save them, that your words are going to do something for them. When I'm in the presence of someone that needs my help, I go there completely detached that I am going to do something for them. I just tell to the universe, allow me to be a vessel for you. I'm just going to hold space. And if that person goes after the session and they don't perceive any change, it's not my responsibility. I just do the best I can to be a presence for them and to hold them in high vibration. Another thing I do with people that I am helping, I just see them for who they really are, which is the perfect expression of love. I don't go down to their stories because I know I can't help from them. But in order to do that, I need to have healthy boundaries. I need to be in a space of power myself. Otherwise, I'll get sucked into the story and it just gets very tiring. Also, with my clients, when I used to have clients, I'm not doing coaching session at these days, but there's a moment where when the session is over, I take a deep breath and I close it. I don't stay with it. I leave it to them. So boundaries are very important when you are wanting to help people and friends too. I'm not always available. You need to ask me if it's a good time to call. Little things like that that you do with so much love, but are important for your own sanity. We're not saving anyone. They're saving themselves, but you can just offer space for that to happen. I hope that answers your question too. Beautiful. Thank you. Great reminder to detach. Yes. Awesome. Awesome, people. So I don't see any more questions or comments, but I think this was a beautiful, awesome call. Okay, I see Joe saying something. Once we realize they're a lesson, should we continue to be around them if they train us, or is it healthy to remove ourselves? Again, Joe. In fact, let's do a breathing to close this call. And we're going to ask your heart. Because here's the thing. Some people, they're in our lives and they're going to walk with us for a lifetime. They're our friends. They're our family. They're just going through a process, and it is okay to be there for them and hold space and be their friends. Your heart knows. Sometimes your heart would say, you know what, the season is over. I had a friend, very dear friend. We grew up together from the time we were 10. By the time I was 22, 23, I just couldn't be in the same room with her. For various reasons. She had a very, very difficult childhood, so she would resent me because I didn't. And so she was always very aggressive with me. She was a bully. Every time we would hang out, she would bully me. And I will be submissive and be like very scared around her. And at the time, I just could hear my soul saying, the season is over. Season is over. There's not much to talk about. Try for many years to talk about stuff. She had to go through her own healing. Maybe I'll find her one day again. Maybe. And maybe we'll be friends again. I don't know. But from the time I was 22 to now, I haven't felt a call to call her or to do anything around her presence. I know she's doing her own healing journey, and maybe we'll be friends, maybe not. But you know in your heart when the season is over. So I cannot answer that question for you. It's very specific to your situation. But let's ask your heart, because your heart knows. So I would love for you to close your eyes in this moment, and I want you to put your right hand on top of your heart. And as we start breathing in and out, I want you to get into that feeling tone of gratitude. And in order to do that, very willingly, I want each one of you, including myself, let's think about something or someone that makes us feel gratitude. Take a moment to bring into your mind's eye that person, that being, that situation, that when you think about it, your heart gets flooded with appreciation, with so much love, so much wonder, and it's just so good. Thank you, you say. Oh, I'm so glad you're in my life. It could be your pet, it could be a kid, it could be your family, it could be your home. Anything that when you think about it, you're like so grateful, so much grace in your heart. As you are in this space of gratitude, I want you to breathe in through your heart gratitude. Exhale out the heart gratitude. Inhale through your heart gratitude. Exhale out the heart gratitude. Inhale gratitude. Exhale gratitude. Inhale gratitude. Exhale gratitude. Now I want you to ask your heart, dear heart, in this relationship that triggers me, what must I do as my next step? Every time I am in the presence of this person, what must I bring to this relationship? What is my offering? Is it healthy boundaries? Is it saying no? Is this season over? Or am I supposed to be here for a little longer and bring peace, bring joy, bring compassion? Tell me in this moment, what do you know to be true for me in this particular situation? I want you to breathe in through your heart. Don't try to make the answer come to you. Allow it to come to you effortlessly. Ask the question, dear heart, what must I do? What's my next step with this relationship? And listen without manipulating your thinking. Just listen with an open heart. Beautiful. As you listen to that answer, keep breathing in and out, love through your heart. If you're not getting an answer because you're still in your head, do this exercise every day during this week. And know that the law says, ask and you shall receive. So as you're asking, the answers will come to you. Just make sure you ask your heart and not your head. We're going to breathe the last 3 times. Inhale. Let go. Inhale. Let go. Inhale. Let go. Very slowly and very gracefully, we open our eyes and come back to the room. So for me, I just listen. Be grateful. Be grateful. Just thank that person. Say thank you, thank you. That was my answer. And I did it with a particular person that I don't have to see ever. But whenever I think about this person, I get like, ooh, that's uncomfortable. So my heart said, thank that person because it's bringing something really good to you to be with in that presence of that discomfort. So I know it's going to take me deeper into my soul. So for me, it was thank you. I don't know what it was for you. I don't know if you did it. Belle is saying that last year, I remember last year when I was so awfully triggered by Kavanaugh U.S. Supreme Court hearings. I was so surprised when you said it didn't have a TV. I've since made a more active effort to immediately shut it off or avoid such Trump-related negativity and triggering. Good for you, Belle. I'm so glad you you've taken action into that. And that, I mean, that, again, that doesn't mean that you pretend that it doesn't exist, but that you choose from where to learn. And a lot of TV channels are always infused in negativity, and they're not adding much. All right. Joe says, makes sense, Paula. Thank you. You're so welcome. Sasha says, thank you. All right, guys, you're so welcome. Thank you. I don't have a topic for next week, so please advise, what would you like me to talk about? And I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you invite your friends to this group. I hope you like this video. You do your exercise. If there are any questions that arise after this call, please send them through the chat, and I will make my best to answer as soon as possible. Have a wonderful Sunday. Have a wonderful week. I love you, and goodbye.